We're good, Harrison? Sorry, thank you. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Ipswich Central Redevelopment Committee, number 1 of 2022, this 10th of February 2022. I note that all committee members are in attendance. No apologies. I'd like to begin with an acknowledgement of country. Ipswich City Council respectfully acknowledges the traditional owners as custodians of the land upon which we meet. We pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging as the keepers of the traditions, cultures and stories of a proud people. Do we have any declarations of interest in any of the matters on the agenda today? No. We have nil business outstanding. So I'll move on to item number 1, which is confirmation of the minutes of the Ipswich Central Redevelopment Committee number 11 of 2021 back on the 1st of December 2021. I will move that. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Milligan. Is there any discussion? No? Move to vote on the matter. Those in favour? Noting that's unanimous and carried. Thank you. Moving on to item number 2, which is also confirmation of minutes. That is the special meeting of the Ipswich Central Redevelopment Committee, number 12 of 2021 on the 9th of December. I will move that. Could I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Kunzelman. Any discussion? No? Okay, we'll put the matter to the vote. All those in favour, noting that's unanimous and carried. We'll move on to item number 3, which is the first of the officers' reports. That is the Nicholas Street Precinct Communications Engagement and Events report from January 2021. The recommendation that the Nicholas Street Precinct Communications Engagement and Events monthly report be received and contents noted. Would anyone like to speak to the relevant council officer? No? Could I have a mover, please? Thank you, Councillor Kunzelman. And a seconder, please. Thank you, Mayor Harding. Now open up for discussion. Is there any discussion? Thank you, Mayor.
I don't wish to steal your thunder, Chair,
Go
but
right ahead.
I think having the St Nicholas precinct and the people that have come through, I've had phenomenal feedback. The Australia Day events, the Twilight markets, it's just been fabulous, and I think I know we're trying very hard to make sure our events are curated to get the right events and the right things there. So it's been well done to the team on a great month and a bit.
Thank you, Mayor. I concur. Christmas was just an absolute delight, and the team did a great job in pulling that all together, and I look forward to many more Christmases down in the precinct. Councillor Milligan, did you have something?
Oh, it's just fantastic that there's no flying foxes in Toomer Place.
Thank you for that, Councillor Milligan. Okay, we might put the matter to the vote. That is the recommendation of the Precinct Comms Engagement and Events Monthly Report. All those in favour? Noting that's unanimous and carried. Move on to item number 4, which is the Nicholas Street Precinct Retail Sub-Project Steering Committee, January 2022. The recommendation that the report from January 2022 be received and the contents noted. Would anyone like to speak to the relevant council officer? Yeah, could I have the relevant council officer come forward, please? Would you please state your name and title?
Good afternoon, Chair, Mayor, Councillors. I'm James Hepburn, Chair of the Retail Sub-Project Steering Committee.
Thank you. Meg, did you?
Thank you, Mr Hepburn. Noting commercial and confidence details, but how are things progressing with both the cinema and the hotel leases?
I'll start with cinema. Things are going well. We have commenced the 3-month due diligence process, which started in early January. So we're a month into that now. Only 2 days ago, we agreed the heads of terms with the cinema operator, and they have confirmed this and that they have a board approval date coming towards the end of February. So this is good news. The legal documentation is out and being considered by both parties, and now the real lion's share of the work sits with both our project management and design teams, working with their project management and design teams to come up with the scope of works and start to agree who does what when it comes to the fit out. So I'd like to think that as we work our way through the process and thinking about the timescales leading into the end of financial year, that we'd be bringing something forward before that time period for consideration at council, or perhaps a special meeting.
Mr Hepburn, you've just mentioned that the operator has a board date for the end of February. So does that suggest that terms of the deal would well and truly have been sorted by then, I imagine?
Terms of the deal, yes, would have been sorted. It will be then up for both parties to agree the agreement for lease, the lease, and all the associated documents so that they fall within those terms that has gone through their board approval, at which point we would bring it back to council for approval, and then they would either seek a following approval, or if everything was as expected, they would then run through to their CEO for signing.
Okay, good.
And the hotel?
Yeah, the hotel is going well. I think if we step back a couple of months, we looked at 3 different delivery routes, as it's quite a tricky build, and the hotel operator has a very large fit out that they'll be undertaking, and they wanted to have a lot of control over what that looked like. Only probably in the last couple of weeks we've agreed that actually council will undertake the build, so we will act as developer in a very similar stance to the way we've built out Metro and Eats. At which point, when we've completed the base build, we'll then hand over to almost said the name, over to the Commonwealth Hotel operator, and they'll undertake their fit-out works.
Thank you, Mr Hepburn. You've just mentioned that we're moving away to the previously discussed proposal potentially of the operator being the developer, given that they are in the industry and know exactly the type of build and fit-out they will need. The shift back to council?
There's a couple of things. They're quite nervous about the change in price in the market at the moment. I think we'll all be quite aware that Omicron and the continued different waves of COVID have really affected the construction industry,
Right.
access to trade and materials. They're comfortable with their fit out. But when you start talking about a base build, there's a lot of groundworks that needs to take place, and groundworks that sit very close to the basement of the building we're in here today. So it's actually more complex than one would normally think. And along with the knowledge that sits within our team and obviously within Hutchinson, the builders who built this building, I think both parties came to the realisation that it's better that we just get on and deliver that part of the scheme.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
I'm making this up, you probably ask some questions, Chair, about the other Metro B.
Metro B?
So an update on the leasing status with those. I'll start actually just with the construction and then move on to the leasing, if that's okay. We were due to practically complete Metro B towards the end of January. We didn't accept that from Hutchinson, the builder. There's one element outstanding, which is the PWD lift that sits at the front of Metro B. Obtaining that has been affected by COVID and long lead times. It's not to say that we can't open the building. We can certainly continue with the fit outs. And when we get into Easter time period, it's up to us whether we want to then think about opening it or not. It will just be that disabled access from Bell Street will be slightly or a bit more difficult due to the ramp. Mm-hmm. So generally speaking, that's actually gone really well. And we're very happy with the end product that's slowly but surely being left, particularly the sandstone work on the front that's almost completed now that we can see on a day-to-day basis. And the leasing, particularly over the last 2 months, has been a bit affected and slowed down. I think not just COVID, but really the extended break that everyone took over Christmas has had quite a knock-on effect there. Although having said all of that, the last couple of weeks have been pretty positive. The announcement of international borders opening and the general positivity that's come back into the business market, we've really started to see an uptick in some of the interactions with the tenants. So subject to all sorts of different things, but we're feeling confident that we'll have the Commonwealth Hotel, our sushi operator, our pharmacy and a coffee operator exchanged and concluded in the coming weeks, which would be great. And then it still gives us a good chance of leading into Easter with a few openings.
And eats, we obviously have the dumplings and
We do.
gelato. How are they progressing with their fit out?
So the Jelly System have yet to take occupation. So they're not far away. I think they're looking at opening towards the end of March, so they can line up with Easter. Fat Dumpling have been on and off site through the sort of COVID period, and they've been struggling to get materials. They've now started to pick up speed, but I think as expected, they've realised that they'll be trading on their own for a little bit. So they've started to slow themselves down so that they would then land and hopefully open at the same time as Gelatissimo, which would probably work better for both parties.
And the other two spaces beside, how are we progressing?
We are in legals with two parties on within each. So we have a coffee operator we've reported probably some time ago, and then we have a burger and sort of cocktail operator on the end facing Bottle Alley, and that's actually recently gone into legal, so that will come through as a LAF to the CEO's office for signing and progression from there.
Great news.
Yeah.
And yes, you know, we are not alone. Our lessees aren't alone. I do note there's some private new businesses within the CBD that are lagging with their opening dates due to staffing and fit out and construction problems. So hopefully that will ease up. I don't have any other questions. No other questions? No, thank you.
No, thank you.
Could I have a mover for that report, please? Thank you, Councillor Kunzelman. A seconder? Thank you, Councillor Milligan. Now open up for discussion.
Just want to thank the members of the Retail Sub-Project Steering Committee. Yourself, you're on that, but just you know, it's tough trading conditions, and you're doing. It's really great to see the progress that's happening.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. As an observer, it's a great opportunity for myself and others on the committee to regularly receive updates, and it's a real journey. Retail leasing, it's a tough gig at the moment. So, but I'm pleased with the progress that the team has been making. So,
yeah, I think it's a beautiful space. It's new. There's a lot of excitement, and we know that when there's things on, people come here in droves. So it's a really exciting place, and it's good to see that people are very interested in being part of it.
oh, absolutely, and that was the overwhelming feedback through the Christmas events. It was great to get the feedback. Wow, you know, we're back. Build it and they will come. You know, people had been asking for a really nice space for a long time, so long overdue. Okay, we will put the matter to the vote then. All those in favour? Noting that's unanimous and carried. Move on to item number 5. That's a report concerning the Healthy Places Ipswich Central Pilot Project, which is a collaboration between Queensland Health Preventative Health Branch, Office of Queensland Government Architect, Westmoreton Health and Health Service, Department of Transport and Main Roads, and Ipswich City Council. And the recommendation is that the report be received and contents noted. Does anyone want to speak to the relevant council officer? No? Okay, could I have a mover, please? Thank you, Councillor Mulligan, and a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Kunzelman. Now open up for discussion. No. Thank you, Mayor.
If I may, Chair, I was just really excited with the figures in here, the fact and the evidence in here, but also at a previous meeting we approved the recreational walking plan as well, and just seeing how this links really nicely with it as well, with that with what we can do with our CBD as well as what's happening throughout the entire city. So it's really great to see.
Yeah, fantastic. It's a great report. There's no further discussion. I'll put the matter to the vote. All those in favour? Noting that's unanimous and carried. We have no notices of motion and no matters arising. So that brings the meeting to a close at 2:04 p.m. Thank you.